Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday afternoon. I know, right? We should be working. We all should be. But we're recording a podcast here because I'm going to Disney World on Monday and going to Springfield on Friday. And Riley just woke up. So, hope you're doing well. We are going to record here with Abby out in Indiana and talk about not one resort, not two, not three. We're going to talk about 4 different resorts on one trip last July. So come hang out with us, grab a ding dong, grab a sandwich, grab a Coke Zero, and we'll have some fun. All right. So what's the number? 2234. All right, let's do this. Here we go. Oh, one more thing. Yep, we're good there. Okay. Here we go. Welcome to episode 2234 of the Be Our Guest Walt Disney World Trip Planning Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rallman from BeOurGuestPodcast.com and one of the senior agents over at the Magic for Less Travel. Happy Monday to you. Hope you had a great weekend. And what a weekend it was, right? I mean, if you're like me, what do you do? Like, there was no football this past weekend. I mean, no college football, no NFL. I know we got the Super Bowl coming up. Tom Brady, even earlier in the week, mentioned he's just retiring. He's done with the whole thing. It's rough. I mean, we got the Super Bowl next Sunday, but man, this weekend, we made it through though. We're here. It's a new week. We got, the Super Bowl at the end of this week. So we're going to have a good time talking Disney. And of course, as we do here on Mondays, it's time for a trip report. Don't forget, I'm heading down to Walt Disney World today. As we speak, I'm probably in the air or at least at Walt Disney World already. So give me a follow on the social media at Be Our Guest Mike on Instagram and Twitter. I'll be posting all the fun I'm having with the agents and the team out at the Magic for Less. We're doing a lot of fun stuff over the next 3 to 4 days. So tune in and I'll be updating you there on the social media. But today, we have a great trip report for you. You like resorts? You like fun times at Walt Disney World? We have it for you right now. So we're heading out to the great state of Indiana with our good friend Abby. Abby, how you doing today? Thanks for coming on the show.
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are things out in the Hoosier State?
Little cold. It's supposed to warm back up around next week though, so that's good.
Good deal. So yeah, we got to meet years ago. I got to meet you and your mother out in Frontierland, and that's always cool to get to meet up like that. Now, let me ask you a little bit about your Disney fandom. So I like to ask our, guests that come on the shows on Mondays, how it all started for them. So what's it like for you? How, you listen to Disney podcasts. How did it all get started?
So my parents went on a Florida vacation when I was about 3 months old, and we did one day at Disney. I don't remember that, but clearly there was something they liked about it. So we kept going, and then around when I was in like 3rd grade, I remember my mom started listening to the podcast. So I would listen with her.
That makes
So
me feel so old.
around 8th grade, I started listening on my own. And then my dad and brother got burned out of going to Disney. It's not for everyone. But my mom, sister, and I keep going. We're pass holders now. It's fun times.
It is fun times. And you know what? You bring up a good point because Walt Disney World is not for everybody. And you know what? Even for people that burn hot with Walt Disney World trips, sometimes, and I see this a lot with folks that come on the shows on Mondays. Like, you'll have a point in your life where you're really hot, like you're an annual pass holder and you'll stay that way for 5 years. Then you might have a little lull because of where you are in life. Maybe it's college, maybe it's high school. And then you kind of come back into it later in life, which I think that's a great point. People kind of come into it and out of it. And, so maybe there's hope for your dad and your brother. Maybe they'll come back.
Yeah, we'll
Gotta work.
see.
So you're a pass holder. Now, let me ask you about that because you're in Indiana. I'm a pass
Mhm.
holder in Missouri. What do people say about that? Like in your everyday life, like, you are working towards a degree in hospitality. We were talking before we recorded. And, when you talk to people about that, you're obviously the Disney person in your circle of friends. What's that like? Because I bet a lot of our listeners can relate to that.
It's almost like you have to justify it a little bit more. Um, and people are like, why do you have an annual pass? But then you think, well, if you go to the beach 3 times a year, you spend this much on this much on that. In the end, I'm spending less So that's the biggest thing is just explaining it. But then too, like people do see me as like the Disney friend. So if they're going, they let me know and they're like, "Hey, I'm going to Disney World." And it's all like I'm a hotel person, so I'm always like, "Oh, where are you staying?" And then it's always like when somebody says, "Oh, the Hilton Garden Inn," I'm like, "Cool." But
Yeah, you are the person to go to because you, like I said, you're going to get a degree in hospitality, which is, that's exactly what this is all about. Which
mm,
I have. It's weird because for myself, my fandom with Disney. And let me ask you this because I like how this connects to your real world, what your profession is that when I first started going to Disney, obviously, and I think it's like this for a lot of people too, it was all about the theme parks. It was all about rides,
mhm,
because I kinda grew up with I don't know. I know you're in Indiana. I don't know how close you are to Holiday World, but I know that's a big.
super close.
Yeah, okay, so that's a big kind of, regional theme park for Indiana
Mhm,
'cause we get all the ads in St. Louis. They always try to lure us away from our Six Flags. We have a Six Flags right near us. But,
mhm,
for me, it was Six Flags, and so I grew up at Six Flags and was always like, "Okay, the newest roller coaster, the newest log
mhm,
ride, the newest, whatever." It's always about rides and attractions, and so when I first started going to Walt Disney World, it was the same thing. It was
mhm.
always about the theme parks, rides, 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 rides. But I've noticed over the last, like, 5 to 7 years, I enjoy the hotels more than I do the theme parks, and I'm fine. Like, if I have a day where I don't go into a theme park at all, a lot of times that's the best day of the trip. It's I know I'm getting older, and it's just fine to slow down and to kinda relax and just get away from work. But do you feel the same? Because 'Cause you're younger, and I just wonder if that perspective is different or the same.
100%. We spend a lot of time like, on this trip, we visited every single resort except the All-Stars. Like, we just spend a lot of time if we're at the Magic Kingdom and we want lunch, it's not even where in the Magic Kingdom should we eat, it's which resort do we wanna go to. And we tend to hit, like, at least 2 resorts every day. We spend a lot of time skylining to other hotels.
Nice. That sounds exactly like because I love it. Like if I'm staying at Caribbean Beach, I consider the Riviera is, a place to go
Mhm.
eat. If I'm at Pop Century, I'll hop over to Landscape of Flavors at Art of Animation just to switch things up. And I think that's exactly kind of how you do things. Use the local transportation. If
Yep.
I'm at Yacht Club, I'll head over to the Boardwalk Bakery, take a boat across, and enjoy it. It's just it's the environment of the whole thing. So let's talk about the trip. So the trip we're going to talk about today, when did it happen? Who traveled with you? And then we'll dive into the circumstances regarding the 4 different resorts you stayed at during the trip.
So it was early early July, so I think, like, the 5th we went down on, like, the 5th-ish and then did a night at the Coronado Tower, a night at Copper Creek, 2 at French Quarter, and then a week at Pop Century, which originally the trip was just the week at Pop Century, and then stuff just kinda kept happening that caused us to add on nights.
Yeah, you caught a case of the add-on-itis.
Yeah.
Yeah, which would it's very contagious in the Disney community. You
Mhm.
gotta be careful. There's no vaccine for that, by the way. Gotta be careful. So, yeah, no, I've been there many times. And the worst person that's ever had the worst case, this is Scott Gardner, who comes on our podcast all the time. He
Mhm.
because he's DVC, but he's always adding on front end, back end, and then adds on to the add-on and keeps doing it and all that. So now you were staying at Pop. So let's start there because that was the base of your trip. Actually, this trip sounds like it took place the exact same time we were out at Disneyland, which you're headed to Disneyland, which I can't wait to hear about, but we'll
Yeah.
talk about that another day. We were talking about that before the show, and I'm so excited for you. But Pop Century, okay, so that was the base, that was kind of the building block for the trip. So why Pop Century? Why did you pick that as where the trip was going to take place?
We just tend to stay at Pop. Since we go down so much, that's just where we find ourselves with it being reasonably priced, but on the Skyliner, like Pop Century is kind of our home resort at this point. Even my mom and I are going down for a springtime surprise, and we booked Coronado, and we ended up switching it back to Pop because we were picturing like, oh, we show up and we're like, wait, we're not at Pop. Like Pop is just where we stay at this point.
That is a that's almost scary because I always stay at Pop Century, especially for races. I was just down there for marathon, stayed at Pop Century. I'm staying at Pop Century for Spring Surprise, but I am switching it up and staying at Coronado for Princess here in a few weeks. And I'm wondering, and I love Coronado. Coronado is a beautiful resort. It's got it all. But there's always a part of me, it's exactly what you just said. Wait a second, I'm not at Pop Century. To me, Pop Century's home because I've stayed there
Mhm.
since the year it opened with my family, and I just, every time I walk around it, like, I just have so many memories with the Potato Heads out, by the '70s, and just, it's scary that I've had that much time at this resort, and it does take care of everything I need without paying extra for all the stuff that I might not use. It just depends. So you were down there in July. Now, so tell us about some of the highlights of the trip, like, as far as, and we can talk about the other 3 resorts, but when you went down, like, what were some of the highlights of going into the theme parks? Do you remember any of that stuff that you got to experience maybe for the first time or some favorites?
Well, on the first day, kind of as my sisters moved to middle school and I graduated high school. So my parents said, like, "Hey, you guys can fly down a day early together." So the Coronado night was just me and I think she was 10, my 10-year-old sister. And we had one of those flights that left here at like 6 a.m., got there at 8 a.m. So while we were in the air, my mom got us a boarding group for Cosmic Rewind. And we did that together for the first time. So that was super fun.
Let me ask you about that though, just that experience. That's super cool because I've never considered that. I mean, I've never considered Paige taking Mallory and shoot, they're
Mhm.
26 and 15. Those 2 together scare me to death. Like, oh man, I can't imagine. So that very cool experience. I'm sure you guys bonded, and your
Mm,
little sister probably got a huge kick out of that. How was
yeah. It was a lot of fun. It's the type of thing for me, I was like, my first adult time in a
Yeah.
hotel room is gonna be at Disney, which made sense. Just it's a good place. There's not many other places I think that my parents would have been fine with me having complete free range.
Right.
The
Yeah.
only thing we really altered is instead of doing an Uber from the airport, we ended up doing the Sunshine Flyer.
Yeah, that's a great call. I'm just saying, like, I get nervous with my girls. Not Mallory, she's never been in one, obviously, by herself, but even Paige, she's in the big city. I get nervous about that. She's 26. But I mean,
Mhm.
she could be 46 and I'll still, she's still my little girl. So I get that, but I bet I bet your little sister got a huge kick out of that. Did you learn anything though about, being the responsible adult that maybe you could pass on if somebody decides to do this with their kids that, are a little bit spread out in age?
I think the biggest thing is that, like, I move fast. I'm somebody who's always, like, going from point A to point B, and my sister takes things a little bit slower. So that was difficult for me at times. Like, I get that you're tired. I get you've been up since 4 a.m. We don't you're not that tired. Like, you can keep going.
Tough it out. We're grinding through. But see, I
Mhm,
got a 5:20 flight on today as we're recording as when this show comes out. I'll be moving slow. I'll be like your sister. I'm
mhm,
gonna take a nap at 9 o'clock in the morning when I get there. Hopefully my room's ready. No, okay. So you guys got the board. Thank your mom's awesome. She got you the boarding group for Cosmic
mhm.
Rewind. So what'd you guys think first time on the attraction?
We loved it, and it worked out good that her and I went down early because my mom was a little apprehensive about if she could do it or not, just with some people having issues on it.
I hear it.
So her and my sister and I, we could kind of evaluate it, and I, like, called my mom after we got off, and I was like, "This is awesome." And we ended up switching, like, a solid half of our park reservations to Epcot.
Nice. Okay, so I'm gonna come back to ask about your mom in a minute and see what she thought. But how did you guys spend that day? Because I'm sure that was just like a cool day to have that time
Mhm.
together. So besides Cosmic Rewind, what else you guys do?
We went to Beaches and Cream. That's
Nice.
one of my sister's favorite restaurants, and we were at the bus stop at Coronado, and she was like, "Abby, there's an 11:15 at Beaches and Cream. Can we go?" So,
Heck,
she does know how to do a few things, and booking ADRs happens to be one of them. And I was like, "Sure." Like, I couldn't say no because if I said no, it was gonna be gone.
yeah, and I mean, you can't say no to a lunch at Beaches and Cream
Mhm.
either. That'd be a crime. I mean, that'd be
Yeah,
terrible. Big sisters can't do
I know.
that. So what else you guys do? I love this idea.
We spend a lot of time, like, shopping at Epcot, not even buying stuff, but just, like, walking into stores, so I think we got to the park around 10, and we'd hit every store at the front of the park before our reservation, and we did a few other rides. And we didn't get our room until like 3, 4 o'clock. So then once we got to our room, we just went back to the hotel for the night.
So what'd you guys think of Coronado? Because you're just there that one night.
Mhm.
Did you guys spend any time at the dig site pool? I love that pool. I hope you guys went there. Maybe
She was too tired.
oh
And
man, I love that pool. It's a great
mhm.
pool. Yeah.
We were in the tower. So like I walked in and I was like, this is fancy.
It's super fancy.
And like, so I was blown away by the tower. I thought, and the dining was really good because we ate at El Mercado for
Yep,
dinner, which
that is
it didn't taste like typical Disney food.
mhm, I agree. It's a step above. Yeah,
Mhm.
it is. You get real silverware.
Yeah.
It's almost like Landscape of Flavors. Like there's something there's there's a small delineation, or however you say the word, between Pop Century and everything pop and Landscape of Flavors, and it's plastic and real silverware.
Mhm.
It's so dumb. I don't know, but it's just because it's New York, I guess. But yeah, you're right, and it feels plush. So you guys spent the night there. So your mom came down the next day, or the rest of it was just your mom, or how'd that go?
Yeah, just my mom. So, like, the next morning, I woke up, went on my run, and then a little bit after that, because my mom was on the same, like, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. flight, my sister and I, like, went down to the lobby and met her. We showed her our room because, like, this room, we were like, "This is a nice room. This is the nicest hotel room I've ever stayed in."
Yeah, no kidding. I know.
And then we dropped our bags off so they could send them to Wilderness Lodge and headed to the Polynesian for lunch.
Ah, good deal. Okay, so tell us about Polynesian lunch, then give us a little review of the over at Copper Creek.
It was a I I think we did Captain Cook's. It was one of those things that we were just sick of waiting for a bus.
Yep.
So we just got on the first bus that showed up to Coronado, which was an Epcot bus, and then we were like, "You want to monorail to the Polynesian?" So we monorailed TTC and then got either Captain Cook's or Kona to go. We do a lot of the sit down to goes.
Good call. A lot of people don't even know it's available, so that's a good tip for folks.
We love them because it makes it. We don't like to spend the time or money to sit down.
Mhm.
And my mom and I share food a lot, but it's harder to share food sometimes when you're sitting down. Whereas if we just do it to go, nobody knows.
Another great tip. You're right. I mean, because especially if you were there in July, and I've noticed this
Mhm.
when you're there in Walt Disney World in the summer, a lot of times you just can't eat a full meal. Like it's
Mm,
so hot, it's so humid, and you're on the go. You just don't want to feel like bloated and just, stuffed.
mhm.
And I'd rather just have like a half a meal and then be, ready for a Mickey bar, at
Yep.
any time. So that's a good call to do that sit down to go. Good. I love
Mhm.
that. Okay, so you guys go over to Copper Creek. You guys, okay, so far you're like 2 for 2 on fancy.
Mm.
Just saying, by the way. How was that?
I was a little underwhelmed. The only other DVC I'd ever stayed in was the Polynesian, and we just felt that the Polynesian DVC rooms were a lot nicer, so we had pretty high expectations. I think next time we would probably either do Boulder Ridge or the regular Wilderness Lodge half.
Mhm.
It was nice, but it was kind of like putting I don't wanna say putting lipstick on a pig, but, like, as a whole, it was just slightly underwhelming.
That's a good Midwestern term, by the way. Just, Indiana, Missouri right there.
Mhm.
If you're from the East Coast, just ignore that one. I like that. No, that's great. No, so what do you think you say that, and I love that we're getting to talk resorts, and I'm geeking out on this. This is awesome for me. So what kind of underwhelmed you about Copper Creek though? Because you compared it to the Polynesian experience when you stayed DVC over there. So was there something that maybe you were expecting they didn't have over there that maybe when they do a refurb, you wish that they would maybe add or fix up?
I don't really know what specifically. Our room was in a weird location where it was, like, down half a flight of stairs, so I think that was just kind of odd. Um, the best thing about it was we were there on a Wednesday, so we got the Magic Kingdom extended
Mhm.
evening hours, which since we typically say pop, we're not used to that.
Right.
But
They
those deluxe hours are nice. We got done like 6 rides in 2 or 3 hours, I think.
Yeah, all of us at Pop Century, we just get to hear about those things. We
Mhm.
don't get to go, and I bet you got to do it over the Willows. And I think my one of my favorite things besides Geyser Point, which I love Geyser Point over at Wilderness Lodge, is just the boat service over to the Magic
Mhm.
Kingdom. It is so easy, and it's an attraction in itself to me. I just
Yes.
love being able to be out on Bay Lake.
And we're transportation people. Like there's most of the time on our trips, it seems like every single day we're doing Skyliner, bus, monorail. Like if there's a form of transportation, we tend to use it.
And that's part of the experience too. And
Mhm.
I have a theory too that folks like us that are from the Midwest or like suburbia, we get a kick out of even riding a bus. Like, because
Mhm.
it's, we drive everywhere in our everyday lives. Like if I go to Taco Bell, I jump in my Jeep. If I go to church, I go in my Jeep. If I go to it's always in my Jeep. I drive myself everywhere. So public transit is a form of entertainment. Of course, I get upset when not upset, but I get a little annoyed when I got to wait 40 minutes for a bus and I see 5 Epcot buses go by when I want to go to the Magic Kingdom, just like anybody else. But yeah, the transportation, a boat, a monorail, a Skyliner, a bus, what have you, it's part of the overall experience. I just like being in that, almost like perfect little bubble. It's so
Mhm.
great point.
Yes.
So you consider that though when you're picking your resort, like, okay, transportation options to get here and there and everywhere. I like that.
Yeah, because I'm gonna go ahead and move on to French Quarter, but that was our biggest thing. We loved French Quarter, but there wasn't a Skyliner.
I know.
And
If they added the Skyliner to Coronado just earlier,
yes.
that would make it the perfect resort. Like that would just check off all the
Mhm. If
boxes.
they put this, because we always say, like, we probably would stay moderate if French Quarter or Coronado had the Skyliner,
Agreed.
but, like, Caribbean Beach is huge, so
It
we don't
is.
want something that big. Coronado's huge too, but if they put a Skyliner there, I would just forget how big it is.
Yeah, that makes up for okay. Tell us about French Quarter because now you have me thinking about beignets, but go ahead.
Well, we did get beignets on our first day. 'Cause you have to. You walk in, you
Yeah,
have to get the beignets.
yeah. So good.
I was really French Quarter is one of those hotels that ever since I was old enough to realize that there are other hotels on property, and I learned about French Quarter, I was like, I want to stay here. But when we traveled as a family of 5, that wasn't going to work. So we did Riverside, but I would walk over to French Quarter and just like, I want to stay here. So I was really excited to be there. I loved running at the Sasagula.
Mhm.
It was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. And just as a whole, like the size of the resort, it was a good experience.
Yeah, I'm actually staying at Riverside this week as I'm going down for the events for the Magic for Less that we're doing down there as we speak. And I'm excited because when I stay at Riverside, I consider both resorts
Mm,
together. Like I'm excited because I will go over to French Quarter and have beignets, and they actually have a really good like honey biscuit sandwich over there as well. And I just think of them as one kind of mega resort. But and I'm staying at Riverside, so that's just where my hotel room was booked. But French Quarter, when you're there, everything is so compact, and it
mhm.
is. I think it's one of the most themed places on property at Walt Disney World, especially at night. Were you guys spending any time there at night? I just love it at night.
Yes. It actually there was like a torrential downpour one of our nights there, but it was like a pretty torrential downpour, just the way everything was reflecting.
Yeah, and the river's great too. So did you take? You mentioned transportation. Did you guys take the boats to Disney Springs?
Yeah, spent we went to Disney Springs several times in the 2 nights we were there, so that was nice. Um, and we ate at Olivia's one of those nights too, which
Oh, so good.
don't wanna it wasn't our favorite.
Oh no! Well, that keeps an ADR open for me.
Yeah, that's why we didn't wanna like it too much because we didn't wanna take your reservation.
I appreciate that. I'm a simple guy. It's just buttermilk chicken. It's nothing fancy.
Mm.
So there you go. Well, let me ask you let me just kind of take a break here. On property, what is your favorite restaurant?
The buffalo chicken grilled cheese at ABC Commissary.
No, I'm telling you, that thing is amazing.
I kinda take credit for you liking it because I remember one of the Friday shows a few years ago, you said there was no good food at the studio, so I
Mhm.
tweeted you and said buffalo chicken grilled cheese at ABC Commissary.
You changed my life then. Let me just tell you, because
Mhm.
I think about that thing at home all the time, and I'm
We
telling
make
you,
it at home.
is it as good at home?
It's a little bit hotter, so, like, cause you know how sometimes it's just not warm in the middle?
I don't care. It's so good, I don't even care, seriously, I eat it so fast, I don't even notice.
Mhm.
Oh, that's so funny though, because I mean, over marathon weekend, I went in just to get a sandwich and left. I went in,
Done
sat
that.
down, sandwich, fries, soda,
Mhm.
I was out of there. That was
That's
it.
why we say at Pop is we need the Skyliner
That was
access
it.
to
That's
get
totally
to
yeah.
studios for the grilled cheese.
That was 100%. I was at Pop Century, just took the Skyliner over, and that's the beauty of an annual pass, ladies and gentlemen,
Mhm.
because you're not gonna use a Magic Your Way day to go in and get a grilled cheese. But, yeah, that's what it was. Okay, so well, what about your favorite sit down restaurant, though, when you guys do sit down?
Um, I really enjoy the breakfast at Ale and Compass.
Interesting.
Like,
Curious to breakfast.
the chocolate waffles with the espresso whipped cream, that's
That's
probably one
Ricky's.
of my favorites.
Ricky loves that. That's one of her
Mhm,
favorites too. I used to like it. It's almost the same, but it used to be called
mhm.
Captain's Table or something.
Oh,
Captain somebody. I don't know, but it was
Captain's Grill.
Captain's Grill. That's right. Do they still? Because I haven't been there for breakfast since it made the switch over. I go for dinner and they have a killer clam chowder. Is that what it was? I had it over marathon weekend. We ate there for dinner. It was a big bowl. No, it was a pot pie. It's a huge pot pie. That's what it was. Very good. I've had it 3 times. But do they still have that where they have the option where you can get the like kind of a mini buffet at breakfast and get an entree? Is that
I
still going on there?
I think so. The last time I sat down there was, like, during the pandemic, so they didn't.
Yeah, things are kind of funky then.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so tell me about though, okay, we've kind of hit these resorts, but some more times in the theme parks. Like what were some of the highlights for being in the theme parks?
Definitely Cosmic Rewind, because once we said that, "Oh, yeah," like, we told my mom, "You'll be able to do it just as long as we're not in the first row so you can, like, watch the car in front of us a little bit." But it's awesome. So then I think our 3rd day, we had an Epcot, and she did it for the first time, and we ended up doing it, like, I think 7 times over the course of our trip, and we got every song but September. So then when we were back in October, on our first time doing it that trip, we got September.
So in October, you got September.
Yeah,
Perfect.
like,
That's
we did
great.
it over the course of this year, we ended up doing it enough times that for Christmas, I made my mom a calendar where every month was a different Cosmic Rewind ride photo,
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
but it's definitely our favorite ride.
So apparently your mom likes it and can handle it. She's
Yeah.
more person than I am. I liked it. I liked it a lot, but I think a lot of it gets into my head. Like I
Mhm.
get worried. The last thing I want to do is like feel ill at a theme park. And
Yeah.
so I'm not one to push my luck. But
Mm.
it's wild. That ride is crazy. It is fun.
'Cause it's like I got off of it and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is the best ride I've ever done," and I didn't even know how to explain it to someone because I was like, "Imagine the Haunted Mansion, but, like, there's a lot of drugs involved and 80s music, and you're going really fast, and you're in space."
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. I can't even that's too funny. Okay, so oh man, you're cracking me up. So when you're in Epcot though, what else do you guys do Ratatouille? I mean, are you a big fan of that or what are some of your other favorite things in there?
We love Soarin', and especially now, we'll go, like, first thing in the morning, and it'll have a 20-minute wait.
Thank God, because I used to have you're
Mhm.
3 hours in on that thing.
I
Yep.
remember the days of my parents running to get fast passes.
Yes, that was me too. Yep. You had to decide like test track or Soarin'. Like you'd have to go
Yeah,
one way or the other. Yep.
and we love the single rider line at Test Track since we don't really care about designing the car, we just wanna do the ride,
Amen. Same.
and you can walk on in, like, 5 minutes, and most of the time too, it works out, like, we'll stand my mom, my sister, me, just so she's never completely alone,
Yeah.
but it'll end up that, like, we're in a car with at least one other family member because 'cause it'll be a party of 4 and they'll take 2 single riders.
I mean, and if your sister has to go by herself, too tough luck. We'll
Yeah,
see you in
she'll
2
be fine.
months. It's a growing experience for you. That's
Mhm.
just toughen up. So, how
Yeah.
about the other theme parks? So you mentioned, you did the evening hours over at the Magic Kingdom. What are some of your favorites there? Did you guys and I kind of like the stories. Like, did you have any special moments? You guys were celebrating milestones, right? You were graduating high school, I think, and your sister was having a celebration. Did you guys do anything special for those kind of things?
Not really, because 'cause I'm not a over, like, celebratory person. Um, kind of going back to what you started to say, our favorite Magic Kingdom thing, definitely the Country Bears.
Ah, I like it.
We
Classic.
we love the Country Bears. It was a few years ago, I did it by myself, and I was like, "This is something." So then during the pandemic, we were, like, trying to figure out what else to do because we couldn't park hop. I was like, "Guys, you need to go do the Country Bears." And my mom was like, "Okay, fine." And her and my sister both, like, were so confused, but fell in love with it to the point where we do it, like, 5 times a trip now. Every time we can't go to the Magic Kingdom without seeing our bears.
Oh my gosh. This is you are preaching to the audience today. This is so great. This is awesome because I think we've done 2,200 shows, and I doubt we've had a lot of folks that said Country Bears are their favorite, which I
Mhm.
love. This is so great. It's such a joy. And actually, I think I met you and your mother right outside the Country Bears, as I recall,
Yep.
years and years ago.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, it's so cool because right there, as I remember. So, what about your younger sister? Is she kind of the same way, or does she have kind of her own thoughts when it comes to favorites? What's she think?
She's pretty similar to us in what she likes. She likes to sleep in,
Oh man,
but
can't do that.
other
Ricky.
yeah. Like, I think she'd rather shut down the parks, but I'm somebody who's like, "I wanna get up, I wanna run my little hourglass lake run and get to parking." And
Yep.
she's not like that, so it's a little hard, we have to make compromises,
Yeah.
bribe her with donuts, that kinda stuff.
Yeah, that's what families do. You're exactly like me. I get up super early before it's even light
Mhm,
out, get my run in either around Hourglass Lake, like you said, or around the lagoon at Coronado Springs, wherever I'm
mhm,
at, it's along Sassagoula, Riverside, probably this week. And, still try to make park opening.
yeah,
I mean, because you got to get up super early. One, especially if you're in the summer, at least you beat the sun, so it's not so hot. But,
mhm,
yeah, I mean, because you gotta get your run, you gotta get your shower, maybe get a bite to eat, before you get to the park, and it's
mhm,
a lot, but it's worth it. But then I hope you come back and take some kind of a afternoon break, swim kind of
mhm.
thing at the hotel.
We tend to either go back it's so hard with park hopping hours not being till 2,
Yep.
'cause, like, back in the old days, we would go to the Magic Kingdom, knock out, like, 3 or 4 rides in the morning, and then start park hopping.
Mhm. Same.
And it's a lot harder because we'd rather take a break around 2, but that's when we can park hop. So we tend to our breaks end up seeming like we're so like, pathetically early since
Yeah.
there's nothing else.
But you know what though? I've learned too, and this is kind of like a philosophical thing though, that if you stay in the park too late, like if here's what would happen with us too, and we learned this probably about 5 years ago, is that if you keep trying to say, okay, we're gonna hop, we're gonna take an afternoon break, like we're gonna do one more attraction before we leave the Magic Kingdom for afternoon break. Like we were planning on leaving at
Mhm,
12. Okay, also we're gonna do one. We see like a 10-minute wait to go on Pirates on the way out or Jungle Cruise. Well, by the time you wait 10 minutes and 20 minutes to ride it, and then you're almost another hour. What
mhm,
happens is by the time you get back to your hotel, then all of a sudden now instead of it being 12, it's like 1. By
yeah,
the time you swim, and everything gets pushed back so far. So you almost the tip that I have for folks is you got to commit to getting out of the park early. Go
mhm,
early and don't feel guilty about leaving at like 10:30 or 11, taking that break, and then just have a nice decent break midday, especially in the summer, like you were down in July, and then go back refreshed in the evenings. Because I've just been burned by staying till the biggest thing is like when Festival of Fantasy came out, like I like that parade, but I never got a chance to see it because if I was staying in the park till 2 or 3, you're just done.
mhm.
You're not getting a break that day. You're not.
And what we found we do a lot too is maybe instead of, like, taking a break and going back to pop, we'll take a break and go to another resort. So, we've taken naps in the contemporary lobby.
Oh,
Was it our plan? No? but it worked. And those chairs on the second floor, those were comfortable.
Wilderness Lodge. There's a fireplace about the 4th floor.
Yep.
It's not the main lobby one. There's a little one upstairs. Yeah, it's a great one. No, another awesome tip. Do you guys just spend any time over at Animal Kingdom, or because you
Yeah.
switch all that stuff to Epcot? But what do you guys like over there?
We love Dinosaur. Like, we're terrified that they're gonna get rid of it
I know
and
it's
not
close. I
replace
think.
it with something we approve of. Because I'm like, if they replace it with Indiana Jones, that's fine.
Have you now you've never done Indy, right?
No, but that's probably
Amazing.
like that's one of my top Disneyland priorities is Indy
Yes.
and Radiator Springs.
Oh, too good priority because here I'm talking about it because I just got to do it for the first time in July. Awesome. They're amazing. Oh man, you're gonna love it. Go. So yeah, so dinosaur. I think you're on the right track though. I think its days are probably numbered, but let's enjoy it while it's here.
And we'll tend to like go to the Animal Kingdom, rope drop Dinosaur, do Everest, and then go over to I think the Harambe Market.
Mhm.
Or no, the Yak and Yeti to go order
No, yeah, yeah.
and get the breakfast tater tots
Oh,
for like our morning snack. And those are so good.
tater tots are I am a tater tot person. I can eat them
Yep.
all day.
I will almost always pick tater tots over fries.
Oh, me too. And